like a workhorse, you know. And it comes with interchangeable lenses, all of that good stuff. You could change the aperture like manually.
Nice.
So that if it's a lighter environment, you can darken it. If it's a darker environment, you can bring it bright and all that.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand. So basically, fear of judgment, right?
Yes.
Like often people use that as an excuse to not be authentic. For instance, I had a guy that I did a consultation with, a fitness consultation, and you know he's like a serial person that does a consultation with pretty much every fitness in the gym that every fitness instructor in the gym that I used to work at. But they kept on telling him like, yo, what it is that you want. And he was always dancing around that question. He would always dance around that question, right?
Yeah.
And finally he gets to me. I'm like his turn. I'm the rookie at that moment.
Yeah.
He gets to me and then I'm like, yo. And I've heard about the reputation. I'm like, yo, just tell me exactly what it is that you want. And at the very least, I can give you an honest assessment to tell you if it's possible.
Yeah.
It's like we're in a closed room. Nobody's going to hear what you have to say. This is your moment to be clear and be real. And he just like sat there for like 2 minutes silent. And then he just broke down a little bit. And he was like, yo, man, I've been bullied my whole life. And every girl that I basically showed interest to, it was like immediately shut down. So I built this callus around me and I no longer, feel confident enough to even voice my opinion or even voice what it is that I want because I feel I don't really deserve it. So I'm like, man, that's deep. So why don't you feel like you deserve it? And he's like, just basically just being told by the world constantly that, I don't matter. And everything that I truly want is just a fantasy, is a fairy tale. And I'm like, so you still haven't told me what it is that you want. If I could like snap my fingers, what it is that you want, right? And he's like, you know what? I truly want to get bigger muscles so that I can attract more women and sleep with more women. Because at that point he wasn't
getting what he wanted in the woman world. Yes.
He wasn't getting what he wanted. He wasn't getting laid or whatever. And I'm like, all right, that's real. All right. And then this is sort of like getting to the point where focusing on what you can control.
Yeah.
I'm like, what you can control is you can show up to the gym every single day and work on yourself every single day. And then the byproduct of that, maybe, you can get an opportunity to, adventure into these different experiences that you currently seek. But none of that happens until you start taking care of your business. Don't use the excuse of other people or the world telling that you don't matter. Because if you keep telling yourself that, right, that's going to be your reality. So that moment of being authentic, and he wasn't feared that I was judging him. I was like being real. I'm like, I'm not going to judge you, just release. So whatever, he used me as like a little vehicle and outlet to speak, so that he can like be free from that judgment. He's like, all right, I finally got it out. And then lo and behold, like 6-7 months down the line, I gave him like a basic program, literally bare bones, because he's been shopping around other trainers and they've been giving him programs and he hasn't done it.
Anything, yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not going to waste my energy and like give him like my best program if he's not going to meet me halfway.
Yeah.
So I told him like, hey, here is like a 6-week program that you can do on loop, right? See if this gets you your results, and then you can come talk to me and see how we move forward. And then that was sort of like that litmus test of like, all right, here is the let me just show him that I am on board and I am going to take his advice and do what he prescribed. And then basically he saw his results, right? So my question to you is, Have you ever been confronted by someone that you've coached that's been in a similar predicament? Like, they fear of judgment. They're basically, they're not taking action because they do fear of being judged. And if so, like, what were you able to do in order to get them over that hump?
That's a very interesting question. So it really, like, for me, it really depends on what their goals are as well, right? Like, the first thing that you got to do is really look at, like, okay, what are my goals that I'm actually having? If it's fitness goals, if it's girl goals, if it's, like existential goals, or if it's relationship goals or family goals or life goals, right? And
yeah, let's speak on that, right? The difference between external goals and internal goals, right?
Yeah.
Because external, it's like something that you can't control.
Yeah.
And then oftentimes people are actually actively searching for those external goals. So how do you normally coach them for those external goals?
I mean, it's very different from each individual, because for me, like, when I hear that someone is afraid, if they're coming to me and they're like, you know what, like, my biggest problem is I'm fearing other people judging me, and I don't want to take action because I can't be myself, because if I do be myself, then people are going to ridicule me, right? Like, that, let's say, like, they've already gotten to the awareness and they've gotten, like, clear, and usually people take, like, 3-4 sessions to even be honest with me, not with me, but honest with themselves, and be able to share deep stuff, because we usually be at the surface goals, and then when we have our first consultation, that's when we go deep, and that's when we're like, okay, like, these are the issues, and then we, like, kind of resolve the issues in the subsequent sessions, but go deep inside of it, because it's the fear of judgment may be a plant inside of you that's like, that kind of is always there. It's like a filter in which you see the world in, and it's like the way in which you act and not act in, but that thing has roots, and those roots kind of like grow inside and get tangled up in all of your body, and every single thing that you do, your breath, like, every single thing that you do. So, like, for us, it's like, for me, like, the way that I work is I look, okay, like, this is the fear of judgment, but fear of judgment is already a label, but it may be a combination, like, let's say it's a cake, right? But there may be like 50 ingredients that make up this fear of judgment thing. Yeah. So then for me, like, the way that I coach is I go in with that person to figure out, okay, like, what are the main ingredients that make up this fear of judgment? And then go and untangle that, and then take that away, and then move forward and see, okay, without these, then what is your new goal? Because the challenge is, like, if you don't clear out, like, what those fears are, then the goals that you make now is all going to be from the standpoint of who you are right now, which already has these different pieces that are maybe not called flaws, but they can be called as, things that are holding you back. And if you're making goals from a space of, like, you already have things holding you back, then the vision that you have may be here. But if you already heal and you're already, like, get that breakthrough, then you might have a vision from that space which will lead you here. So why do we want to go with someone who is already limited and deal with limited goals versus, like, just go directly to, because, like, it will be like all these different pathways to get to here. Yeah. And it just takes so long, Yeah. And so, like, for example, for him, like, if, taking your example, like, if he were to just concentrate on building bigger muscles, and he thinks that building bigger muscles is going to get him laid, then it's really, and then you're like, no, like, let's just do what you can control, right? So, like, if he keeps building bigger muscles and he's not getting laid, then he's like, okay, maybe building bigger muscles, plus I need to have a nicer haircut, or, like, I need, you might be building on this whole thing, but it's still not getting your desired outcome, which is to have these intimate relationships, or maybe, like whatever type of relationships. So then it's like, so the first thing for fear of judgment is to understand, like, hey, what is the root cause of it, and what is it actually pertaining about? So, like, is it purely a self-image thing? Is it a self-worth thing? Is it a self-value thing? Does it affect you only in terms of girls? Does it affect you at work? Does it affect you in family life as well? Because usually these issues affect you all around, right? And so if we understand that, then it's like a deeper breakthrough. Because if you surface level breakthrough, you only get surface level results. Like, if you break through deeper level, then that's when things change. And the funny thing is, I actually was talking to one of my clients today who just got off the phone with me, and when breakthroughs happen, and the reason why you need a coach is because when breakthroughs happen, so many things in your life change.
Yeah.
Like, not just your outlook, your friends may change, the way you see the world. You may feel really unsettled because you just don't value things the same way. You just don't feel like fulfillment comes from the same things anymore. Like partying, maybe. Like, remember, like, when we used to really like that, and then you changed, and then now it's like a different kind of lifestyle, right? And so a lot of things change, especially if you're on this content journey, on this podcast journey, or on this journey of creating your own life. Like, when you're starting to do that, like, a lot of the old stuff in your life will judge you. They will judge you.
They will judge you because it's like a drastic change. Like, it's sort of like going back into the fitness thing, right? It's like even your body, when you're first like shocking your body with exercise after being sedentary for some time, even your body, it's like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? And your body is going to start to like rebel against you.
Everything in your life is going to want to keep you the same, because
it's basically pushing up against that force, that thing that makes you uncomfortable. But the more you do that, then it becomes accepted, like, okay, this is the new path. Like, you forged a new way. Now everything is going to mold around you, as opposed to you molding yourself around those external things.
And that's where it's tough. I totally hear you on that. And that's the part that people struggle the most, because in that moment, if you're not strong enough to let things mold around you, you remold yourself around those older things. And that's where people fall through. So, like, a lot of people are like, okay, I've done a 6-week program, I'm done. Like, I'm good.
I did my
I'm
part.
finished. I'm done. But the thing is, like, once you finish that small program, like, what you don't know is that the skills to stay in that position and allow your life to mold around you. Like, if you're on the like podcast journey, you've done your first 10 days, you're like, okay, great, I got this, But the thing is, like, the tough part is not about starting. The tough part is staying in the game.
Yeah, staying in the game long enough, you know? And it's like, there's a lot of people that, because, I like to look at other content creators too for some inspiration, motivation. And sometimes, like, when they get to a certain threshold, they're just like, fuck. And like the kind of fan in me, I'm like, no, keep going, man. I know what you're going through. Keep going. And I kind of like, try to engage with them too in their comments or in their DMs, just to give them that little boost to keep going, because I love what it is that they're doing. They're contributing to the conversation. But I can see where the plateau just happens, and it oftentimes is like based off a shaky foundation. They don't have that. They're trying to cater to the algorithms. They're trying to cater to, audiences that don't really mess with their sort of content, as opposed to staying true to them and their path. And you're like, oh, man. And there are moments in time where I've ran up against those things too. But then I'm like, all right, Caesar, go back to that basic, to the fundamentals. Like, what got you to the dance, right?
Yeah.
Go back and do the same thing. Because when you go back and do those same things, those repeated mundane tasks over and over again, those mundane tasks you become an expert in, right? And when you become an expert in those specific things, people are going to be seeking you, right? And after that, next thing you know, you're on that center stage and you're performing at that high level. But it comes from those repetitions. If you go back to anybody's like first few videos, or first 300 videos, and they've never done it before, you'll see that, man, it's a long road, right? And
it's a long road. And also personal development as well, because a lot of the things I coach on is, a lot of people come to me for life coaching first, and then they do business coaching after, because we have to kind of look at their lives and really transform their lives first. And one of my other clients recently was just telling me, she's so happy because her fitness is different. Like, she never used to think, like, she had just broken up when she first came to me, and she had a major heartbreak, and every time she like went to like a wedding, she would feel really bad because like it would just be triggered that she was not in a relationship, and she almost was getting married, right? And so like And so like all these different, like in relationships we have like these different things to train, just like the workout plan, right? There's these things. So there's these things that we have a exercise that allows you to see who you truly are. So that basic drawing board of like going back to like what got you through the dance. So we have these words in our program that kind of allow people to kind of come back to center. And then we also have these things that are like, okay, all the different fears and all the different blocks. And so how do we get rid of them in ceremonies and sessions and like transformational sessions, and then we have these practices that keep them in place. And so the tough thing is to keep all of that balance, because now she has very little time because she's practicing all these things and she's going for all the dreams that she wants. And her part at the moment is like, oh my god, like Hani or Ying Han, she's just like, everything is coming to me. I have so many men writing to me, and like I know you told me, like, am I ready? Because like I literally told her, like, are you ready to open the floodgates? Because like if we're gonna do this session right now, like, are you in a place that you can handle? Because it's gonna change, and you're gonna have men coming towards you. Even this is not like what you've been experiencing before. And she's like, yes, I'm ready. And I don't think she knew what she was asking for, because I know what it is like when you're like shining, you're like walking the street, like people are like, you know, interested in you and things like that. And so she's like, I'm ready. And she's just like, I'm so exhausted in a really good way, but I'm literally like just like having so many people. She's like, I can't handle it. And she's like, you know what? And then at the same time, she's like, oh, like, but maybe I can, maybe I will be okay, like if I just kind of wander through this for the next 6 months. But it's not, right? Like if you're doing these changes, you're starting on this podcast journey, and you don't continue doing these practices, and you think that it's all just going to work itself out, it's not. Like these are all deliberate actions, especially for the fear of judgment, right? Like at each level there's a different fear of judgment. Like maybe right now we're not, you know, afraid of that, but like maybe when we step into the next level, like, it's gonna be there again. You know, it's not. It was a
process. It was a process for me to even get to this point. You know, and oftentimes you're just sitting there thinking, especially when it's like 10 p.m. and you were like working hard on this one video that you feel is going to offer value to thousands of people, and then you post it, you go to sleep, you wake up the next morning, and you're just like, fuck, right? But, you know, I got to learn and be happy with working on the work. That's it. I'm like, this is the only thing I can control. It's the working on the work, and basically giving these messages to myself again. You know, so if I'm ever in the position that that viewer is in, where I have fear of judgment, I can have now a living asset through this video to tell me exactly, you know, how to overcome it, right? So at the end of the day, you know, you just have to take the action and just work on the work and just focus on that and forget everything else.
Yeah.
Right?
Just acknowledge it for what it is and really understand it's part of the process, and the process is not so much to get rid of it, it is to transform through it, find support, transform through it, and then realize that it's not something that will go, like your goal is not for it to go away, your goal is to continue. So shift your focus from being stopped by it, but just kind of navigating around it and through it, and then eventually it will just have so much less hold on you, to the point that, you know, even if it's there one day in the morning and it's like really big, you notice it and you go reach out for support from your community, and then you get past it.
Yeah, find yourself a community with like-minded individuals who is going through the same exact thing as you, because that's just going to work wonders, man. And you're going to see, like, man, like, one, it's good to know that you're not the only one experiencing this, and two, you just like have that support system so that if you ever fall, you have people to just catch you.
What do you feel like was one of like your worst like fear of judgment times?
It's basically always been around like going to approach that girl in the bar or everything, but I'd done it enough times where it was like, man, I don't give a fuck, because everybody is basically standing around, you know, waiting for that person to get rejected, so they'd be like, ooh, I knew that. But how I saw it is like, I play basketball, right? And before every game or every big game, you have these jitters. So I'm like, yo, I give myself the excuse to shoot that first air ball.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yo, just go shoot that first air ball, you know, get people laughing, get people like, you know what I mean? And then, you know, you just like, all right, I got that air ball out of the way. or a couple of air balls out of the way, and then I'm good. I'm settled in.
Yeah.
You know, that's the worst fear, is like shooting the air ball in the crowd, with the crowd just like booing you or whatever. And I'm like, all right. So when I would approach or think about approaching that girl, right? I'm like, yo, let me just get this air ball out of the way. I like her. I like her style, how she presents herself, how she carries herself. Let me just get this air ball out of the way and then just go. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. But the action, you know, stay the same. It's like, what can I control right now? I can't control her reaction. I can't control what other people in the environment thinks of me. All I can control is going and introducing myself, right? And seeing where the conversation goes from there. And then that was, once I made that shift, man, unstoppable force.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I feel like that's like that value in practice. So for me, like, you know, the fear of judgment doesn't really come so much in terms of like fear of judgment anymore. So it's hard for me to like kind of go back to, but I can imagine and I can relate to the anxiety that comes up as a result of fear of judgment. So like after you feel the fear of judgment, maybe part of it is like high anxiety, making you question, like, you know, am I doing the right thing? Like, why am I even doing this, right? And so during that time, the focus is shift into an internal focus. You're just like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. Like then you start scrolling social media and you look at everyone else and like what they're doing and all of that kind of stuff. And then you feel really bad about yourself because everyone is like going forward and you're not, and things like that, right? And so like at that moment in time, like what really helps as well is to realize that, you know what, right now I'm focusing on things that I cannot control, and also I'm focusing on things that is just the wrong things. And so refocusing, reshifting your attention. So this is a test of like how much control you have over your attention. And so taking your attention and then placing it on, let me just do the video again. Let me just do my daily practices again. Let me just do the things that I decide that these are the things that I need to do on a daily practice, no matter up, no matter down, no matter fear, no matter happy, no matter what. And that's the practice, just like your air balls, right? Like it's literally like 90 days of air balls or whatever. Maybe like you shoot 50 hoops, maybe you shoot like 10. Who freaking cares? Because like the asset is that you're getting better. Every single time you take that action becomes stronger. Every single time you take that action becomes more ingrained, and that action is ultimately like what is going to take you to the next level. Yeah,
at the end of the day, you know, shooters shoot. You know, you don't get really good at any one thing unless you put those hours in. So that 1,000 hour rule, 10,000 hour rule, whatever that rule is, just keep doing it.
Like, maybe the podcast sucks that day, you know, and it really sucks because you feel really, really, really crappy about that. And that's something that you can use inside of your content as well, because that makes you more authentic. You can totally just open up the podcast and you can just say, you know, today, like, welcome to the podcast today, and today I feel like crap. However, I'm showing up in service for you because I know, like, this is my mission, this is my purpose, and this is the vision, and this is what I'm creating, right? And so that creates that authenticity too, so that you're not pretending to be the super happy person that's super pumped and super motivated all the time, because that drains you.
Yeah, it drains you. So, you want to be you. Don't ever try to follow the trends, because trends come and they go. If you're looking for longevity, don't try and like follow these trends. You know, just follow your heart and just keep your eye on your vision. Keep yellow pads, legal pads around. Write your thoughts down. Once you write those thoughts down, try to present them as clear as you possibly can. Look around you, see what tools that you have at your disposal. So don't look at online and see like what latest, you know, camera that came out or latest audio thing that came out. Just see around, like, what's the tools that I have right now, and work on use those tools that day, because as you continue to use those tools, you get to, maximize the value that you get out of those tools, as opposed to investing on new tools and it has yielded you no return yet. You know, just focus on the work, and then allow the work that you're able to do and leverage that work into helping you get the different tools and resources, coaching, et cetera, that you need.
Yeah, And absolutely.
All right. So yeah, hopefully that helps. And yeah, let us know what else that you want to hear from the two of us.
Yeah.
Also, go check Hani's channel out if you want to plug that real quick.
It's bit.ly.com, bit.ly/YOLOYT. So if you just search Hani Chang, You Only Live Once, Life and Business, we'll put that in the link.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description.
Yeah.
All right, and
so
go
you'll
check
find
her
out more about personal development stuff and business stuff. And we did a bunch of videos together too. That's also on there.
And looking to do more collaborations just like this.
Absolutely.
All right.
So bust that fear, get that action, and stay present and stay creating versus comparing.
Yeah, ABC, always be creating. Anyway, I'm about to sign out. Thank you guys for watching. Comment, subscribe. Peace out.